This is John Costa at the Documentary Media Centre here in Leicester in the UK. And today is Monday, the 1st of November, 2021. And this is the first day also of COP26, the big climate change, climate action conference that's going on up in Glasgow. And it's pretty much dominating our news headlines today here in the UK. And I'm sure it will across the world as well, because we've got quite a lot of the world leaders attending, lots of sort of diplomats and delegations coming together to discuss this really important issue that we've got at the moment in this seminal decade of, if we've got to make a bit of a commitment but some action now, not just talking about it, especially building on the success of Paris and trying to keep everybody, now that America's back into the fold. So lots going on, but we're not going to drill down into the details of it today. I just wanted to catch up with a good friend of mine, Cletus Clement. How are you, Cletus?
I'm fine, John. Thank you for having me here on this issue, which is a global one. And I'm very happy to be here. Thank you so much.
Brilliant. Well, the reason I wanted to catch up with you, obviously, because as a very hard-working, successful, Lagos-based documentary filmmaker, you've been very successful in making The Backwaters, which we'll touch on, and we've been great to show that here and support that. You've got a new documentary coming up as well about the fishermen, particularly based there on the coast, and I want to talk to you a little bit about that. But obviously, in your role as the co-founder with myself of the Doc Hub for West Africa, the sort of maybe some of the bigger issues that we need to be focusing on when it comes to climate change. Obviously, your documentary is going to be about fishermen, but we've got things like, the moving south of the Sahara and the Sahel. We've got the sort of the great green wall that they're trying to construct across the entire width of the continent. So lots of opportunities over the coming years to support budding documentarians, particularly those that are local based, to be able to share those stories. So I thought I'd catch up with you today. So let's dive in. It's an important time, I guess, not only for telling these stories, but also, as we're trying to do with the Doc Hub in West Africa, provide a space where people can come together for support, whether that's equipment or funding or, researchers, or just somewhere to have a really good conversation. I mean, from your perspective, give us a quick overview of the documentary scene in Lagos or in Nigeria from your perspective at the moment. Is it a vibrant scene? Is it something that we should be encouraged by?
Well, thank you so much, John. The issue of global warming and climate change, it's something that's it's something that concerns everyone in every facet of life, and I think it's an issue that everyone needs to talk about. Because it impacts on the community. Either you are in the West or you are in the South. Everybody's more concerned about it, and I think it's an issue we really need to take a bull by the horn and let everybody be aware of it. Either you are at the top echelon or you are on the downscale. I think in terms of education, in terms of awareness, it needs to be propagated in such a way that people begin to be aware of their impact in the community. Because like I hope any other home, other days, I think it's an issue that we need to take more serious. And in terms of documentary, it's not just to create stories, but stories that challenge us, stories that bring about the issue that we are facing, so that we can be able to know how to deal and mitigate issues of climate change and global warming. So I think when it comes to the documentary perspective, we need to really delve more especially on the people that are actively involved in this, and see from their own perspective ways and manners in which everyone, like I said, it's a stakeholder in this.
Yeah, because your documentary about the backwaters was very much around people that lived on a refuse area, a refuse tip that people put stuff on, and were eking out not only a very kind of meager living, if you like, that sort of day-to-day survival that we see so often portrayed on or portrayed in the media globally, but also actually lived actually at the site, didn't they? So this was all the rubbish and the refuse from Lagos that was put there. How do you go about building trust with a community like that in order to be able to make a documentary ultimately about their day-to-day lives?
Well, it's about engagement. It's about when you with the people, you make sure that you identify with their common cause, about what their challenges are. They begin to see you as part of them, so that trust can be built. And you're not actually going to come from an external perspective, but more or less like letting them know that you understand what they are actually going through and you're living their life. So by that, they can be able to trust you and like, okay, you're actually going to give authentic story and not a diluted one or a story that is distorted by some forms of information that are not basically true. And so once they identify this, that, okay, you're actually telling it from their own perspective, in other words, giving them the canvas for them to tell their story. So they begin to trust you. And of course, this doesn't just come abruptly like that. It's a gradual thing, as they begin to speak to you, they're looking at signs, even non-verbal signs that's, okay, can they actually trust you? Are you actually doing that journalistic work in a sense that it's portray their own voice. So these are the things. It's a gradual thing. And so they begin to build that trust in you. And once they see that you're being truthful, they will definitely come out and tell you the life they are living, the challenges and things that that can lead to such that can bring about solutions to them, like the backwaters that we did, of which went on to win some notable awards, both local and global. It was more or less like telling it from their own personal perspective, their GOP, and their point of view. And so it was an authentic story that we didn't really want to narrate it from the way we see, but the way they see the world. And I think that was the nucleus, let me just say, it's that really hold the documentary together.
Yeah, I mean, it's very powerful, and I mean, you can use so many cliches about it, can't you? When you watch documentaries, it was very moving, it was very powerful, such a wonderful story, blah blah blah. But I guess from your perspective, and certainly from when I visited and what I remember of my visit to Nigeria all those years ago was, it's something like climate change and recycling plastic. Refuse, where rubbish is sent to as well for recycling. This is particularly Lagos, such a growing city as well, one of the fastest growing cities in the world. You've got to talk about the fact that ultimately there's always going to be those people that are on the margins that are there making a living through scavenging, if you like, off of what comes down from the people above for them to exist. And so things like education of their children and stuff. Is this something that was mentioned or talked about with people? Because obviously it would be something that would be really interesting to foreign journalists or foreign documentary makers. But from your perspective, and I know having spoken to you many times, you're very passionate about this subject. These are your people, this is your community, this is your city, this is your country. And that was what drove you to make the Backwaters, was about telling a story that was right on your doorstep, that even a lot of people that you knew were probably oblivious to as well.
Yeah, yes, John. I think more. I wanted to tell the original story, because more often you have situations whereby people comes out with all sorts of narratives about people living at the back end. Then those kind of information sometimes more often are distorted. So I wanted to allow them to tell their story in such a way. And what I discovered was that they are also living a kind of a life that, it's not isolated in terms of the way we that are privileged lives our life, but they are only constrained by the environment, in which they live. So I try as much as possible to make sure that I give them the canvas for them to, and I delve into their life, their everyday activities, and in terms of education, in terms of health, in terms of the aspiration, the entrepreneurial spirit among them. And this was an eye opener because they have hopes and aspirations, as well as wanting to have more knowledge about their environment. And that's why you have situations whereby you have their kids, they have community schools around, they have health centers around, they have securities around, and things like that. So they are not kind of isolated in terms of knowing what needs to be done, but the environment was what constrains them. And of course, I was able to delve into that and give them the canvas for them to really portray that.
Yeah. I mean, it's a fascinating documentary, and I'll make sure that there's a link to this when we post it as well, for people to be able to see the trailer and find out about the documentary a little bit more, particularly the awards that it's won as well, which I know you're very proud as well. So which is great. Now, the next documentary that you are looking to produce, and which we're trying to desperately help you with here at the Doc Media Centre through the Parallel Lives Network and the Doc Hub in West Africa, is that we can save us. This documentary about the fishing community on the coast there, and not only the impact of overfishing and the warming of the water through climate change, but also the impact of chemicals and what's going on the land leaching into the water and affecting the water as well. And I think certainly in the clips that you've shown me, when the guy's talking about how the water changes color at various times, and the fish floating to the top and you can feel the heat change in the water, was a real eye-opener. How did you come across that story? Is it people coming to you telling you this story, or is it you were looking for something to do after the backwaters that was impacting a community in a way that people maybe wouldn't be aware of?
Yeah, thank you, John. We Can Save Us. It's a documentary that has a theme on climate change and global warming from the local perspective, which I use the fishermen as point of view. I've always known that there's a story there, but nobody came to me, and I wasn't really prepared to okay, I'm going to go out there and film this story at so period. I think I was shooting something, a commercial at the Riverine area, when I noticed a particular fisherman, and he was going about what he does every day. And interestingly, there was some struggle, and I happened to look at him, and then I think this there's something to really talk about here. So I approached him. I was really eager to discuss some issues concerning his trade, the challenges and all that. I think that was basically the what gave me the impetus to let's expand on this story. And so I went back and did some research and some groundwork on their challenges and stuff like that. And then, I started off experimenting, talking to some few fishermen, and then I realized that they are having similar challenges in terms of lesser produce compared to what was applicable in the past. And I was able to also come across the fact that most of them don't really understand what is actually going on in terms of why we have less produce, in terms of why there is the water is heating up, and of course the changes in color of the water as a result of chemicals seeping in, and of course even some of their own activities, that in terms of dumping of refuge into the oceans and things like that that could affect their own produce. So I was able to interview and talk to a number of them, and they were able to give an insight into their daily challenges and of course what is really, really happening. And I think there's a story there in the sense that in terms of awareness, when it comes to global climate change and global warming, they need to understand, because some of the languages we speak as when it comes to the scientific aspect of it, they may not really understand. So I think there's a need for us to give them that, break it down in a way they will actually understand that this thing is real. Climate change, global warming, it's real, and it's actually affecting most of their produce. Because sometimes they wake up and then they see dead fishes at the shore and they couldn't understand what's actually going on. And comparing what was feasible in the past and to what they get now, it's a dismal picture. So definitely something is happening. And if they are not aware of this, it means they're actually going to live in ignorance and not knowing what to do. So the documentary actually covered that aspect, but more especially from their own perspective to how this is affecting them and the consequence of that, the challenges they are facing.
So who is your audience, do you think, for the documentary? Is it the fishermen and their communities? Is it local politicians and the national government about, listen, this is happening on our coast and this is happening to our people? Or do you think it's more for international audiences to be aware of this specific story, that they can join up with some others, if you like? Or do you see all three, or all the audience, and you're able to serve all three?
Well, I think it will cover all in terms of the audience, because by approaching it from this local perspective, when the documentary is done, they can be able to see it. In terms of campaign vision, we can be able to, showcase it for them to see, and they can learn from it. Like, oh, okay, this is us. This is what is been going on. So we have more awareness and we can be able to mitigate. And also when it comes to the local politicians, they'll be able to embark on such campaigns and know how to formulate policies that will stop some of those activities, like, for example, the local industry not managing their waste properly. So I think, it would definitely, the audience in terms of who and who is involved. So it's not only the local, and of course, but by giving them that voice, the government also be able to these are the people in which such cause has an effect. And hence we are able to formulate policies that will make sure that, these things are not, occurring. In terms of managing our community, in terms of environmental impact assessment, we can be able to do something about it. And also the global community can be able to also see it and you know what, I think we can do something. We can engage with the government. We can go into research. We can grant funds that will lead to cleanup of such environment that has been degraded. So I think it involves everyone, not just the locals as being the audience. It also involved the local politicians. It involved the state government. It involved the federal government. It involved the international community. So coming in from this nucleus, this point, we can take it to to a more global scale in which people begin to talk about it. Because if you look at it, it's not peculiar to West Africa or where I come from. It's a global phenomenon. So if we tell it from this perspective and compare it, around the world, you'll see that you have similar situations happening. So I think the audience is it's not limited. It reaches to everyone from different skills.
Yeah, particularly sharing sort of solutions to problems that people have found somewhere else but are in a similar situation. It's that kind of, I guess that's really what inspires us to do the Parallel Lives Network, really, is to get people to share the solutions to some of the problems that they've created themselves, that might not be picked up by the mainstream media, that might be more interested in the problem rather than the solutions. And I guess this is also the same with the Doc Hub in West Africa. Our vision, our dream for creating that between the two of us, and using your office space in Lagos as a headquarters as we kind of develop it, is the fact that there's quite a lot of the communities, quite a lot of the 17 countries that make up West Africa, that amazing economic block in its own right, that ECOWAS area. And 10 of them at least have coastal areas, so will be affected by the ocean and climate change, and those inland will be affected by climate change in a different way, whether it's more arid, the encroachment of the Sahara coming south into the Sahara, and that great big green wall that's trying to be constructed. There's lots of stories that relate to the environment right on our doorstep, really, with the Doc Hub in West Africa. Is this one of the things that you're particularly looking forward to seeing over the years, people coming forward, making their own documentaries and supporting them to be able to tell their own story?
I think it's a good one, John. That the Doc Hub West Africa came into existence because you and I agree that there's a lot of stories being told by different people, and there's still a lot of stories that are yet to be told. And if we can be able to collect these stories, we'll be able to analyze it and come up with things like issue-based stories that will definitely help in decisions making. So there's a lot going on. There's a lot of stories that are left untold. There's a lot of documentarians around West Africa that needs platform in which their stories need to be heard, in which their stories need to be showcased, in which they need encouragement to be able to tell these stories. Because you agree with me that over here, funding is also an issue, that you need to tell stories. You tell the story, you want to move to the next story. And if you're not encouraged in terms of funding, or you have a platform that can showcase this, it's been you're limited. So the Doc Hub as a unit, definitely it's a good development, and trying to provide resources for documentarians across West Africa, coming together to lend their voice on issue-based stories that are challenging, and not just to tell the stories, but to tell it in such a way that it will lead to probably formulation of policies that will, of course, transcend into change. Because it's not just for us to tell stories as filmmakers, it also that for that story to make an impact, in the life of people around. And I think at the Doc Hub, it's a good resource center, and that's promised to bring much larger collections of West African documentarians from 17 member countries to make sure that it gives them a voice. And I'm so glad to be part of this. I think it's a good one.
Yeah, it's great. I mean, it's good to get the website up and running as well. I mean, it's a work in progress as we add more content to it, but we've attracted a few people already. So if anyone's watching this or knows of anybody in West Africa and any of those countries that are covered, please get in touch. Have a look at the website, which is dochubwestafrica.org. There's email addresses for both of us on there that they can reach out to ask questions about, how they could get involved. I just think, we're going to get busier and busier over the years ahead as people suddenly realise that, for lots of different reasons, West Africa is quite a hub for lots of things that are being impacted by the environment and other things as well. So let's finally finish off, my friend, with talking a little bit about your film again, We Can Save Us. How far are you into it? Have you managed to do quite a bit of filming? I know you kind of fit it in, don't you, between your more commercial projects. And it's a real challenge, probably a real challenge of any kind of documentarian, isn't it? The fact that, funding's quite difficult to find. So you have to kind of fund your own work to a large extent, but it's always nice to be able to get support from people. What kind of finances are you after in order to get it finished? And I know we're planning a crowdfunder, aren't we? So let's have a bit of a chat about that.
Well, John, thank you for that. All kind of funding, right? Right. Like now, we just have to make sure that we finish what we started. The first principal photography has been shot, of which the teaser was cut out of it, which, of course, the link is there for people to see. And I'm on the second phase of filming. The paperwork has been done, how we need to go about it. I would have filmed it some few months ago, but also the issue of funding, it's a bit challenging, because you want to be able to make sure that you reach out to all stakeholders. You'll be able to have a story that's, cover all aspects of the topic, which of course the theme is on climate change and global warming. So I'm hoping to go into the second phase of the photography, shooting, and of course more engagement. I'm looking at next month, all things being equal, to start up again to film. I just hope finance will come a long way. Because in overview, we would love a situation whereby the documentary is ready in 2022, fully ready for the world to see. Been working on it quite some time now. And in terms of funding, I'm looking out for crowdfunding. Looking out for organizations who can come in partnership and say, okay, you know what, we can help out. I'm looking at stakeholders, enthusiasts, people who believe that, they need to do something in their little way for us to be able to curb the menace of climate change and global warming. Documentarians, people who are actually interested in this kind of story. And it's not only for documentarians, not only for people who feel they are directly involved in a story like this. But I think the issue of climate change and global warming is something that concerns everybody, private sector, the public sector, the government. And funding a project of this nature will definitely go a long way, because it can serve as a research materials. It can also serve as something that people can look up to and say, you know what, we can be able to learn from this. We can be able to use this as educational materials for people to do their research on. So I'm looking for those kind of funding to come in so that we can be able to complete it with all things being possible. 2022, we can save the world. Come to screen.
Excellent. Listen, Cletus, thank you for taking the time to speak to me. I'm sure you're very busy, as you always are, doing your various projects and stuff. But I know this is an area that you're very passionate about, and the sort of the conversations that we've had, which I've always enjoyed, led us directly to founding DocHub West Africa together. And again, you kindly letting us use your space in Lagos as a headquarters, because I think, you know, there's a lot to be done, not only in Nigeria but across West Africa as well, in capturing those stories, but encouraging local documentarians, you know, young people themselves that are at school or, you know, going to college, and those that are fortunate enough to go to university that want to tell these stories. We need to be encouraging people that are aiming maybe for the mainstream media or working in television, you know, of which there are many stations in Nigeria. I think if anybody really wants to find out what Nigeria is really like, get yourself into some of the programming, the web TV and that kind of stuff that people are doing. It's amazing stuff. I know certainly a lot of the students that I teach that are from Nigeria or have Nigerian family connections are always showing me various channels. I mean, someone's just returned from Nigeria as well and brought me 2 local magazines, of which they were like 80 pages each, full color. It's incredible. You know, journalism and media production is alive and well in Nigeria, and I just encourage people to dive and delve a little bit deeper themselves away from the mainstream media narrative of what Nigeria is like, to, you know, find yourself someone who's from Nigeria and get them to show you some of the content. It's incredible. So, you know, I'm extremely proud and honoured to be able to do something with you, and let's hope moving forward we can do some stuff to help you with the We Can Save Us documentary.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, John. Thanks for having me. It's a pleasure.
Problem. You take care, my friend. Speak to you soon.
Thank you.